I decided to do a European river cruise after a 5-year break. The question was, which line should I use? I looked at the latest reviews on Cruise Critic and was intrigued to see that a line I'd been on before and thought was okay, but not exceptional, was currently the highest rated line by passengers with an impressive 4.7 out of 5. So I booked on one of their Rhine river cruises and of course boarded with high expectations. This is what I discovered, good and bad. Welcome aboard, I'm Gary Bembridge, and as always I booked and paid for this cruise at the going rate through my travel agent to make sure that I give a fair and balanced review. The line currently rated highest by past passengers is AVALON Waterways, but who and what are they? AVALON is a 20-year-old river cruise company owned by the Globus family of travel brands, who are the largest tour operator in the world. They sail 15 ships on a wide range of European rivers, including the Danube, the Rhine, the Moselle, the Rhone, the Seine, and the Douro. Most of their ships carry 166 passengers, like the AVALON Immersion that I was on. They also cruise on rivers in Asia, South America, and Africa. AVALON are a 4-star premium river cruising line, falling between 5-star luxury lines like Riverside, Scenic, and Uniworld, but definitely higher than more 3-star budget lines like Crossy Europe and TUI. Their closest competition, I feel, are lines like Emerald, Viking, and Amma Waterways. AVALON focuses on English-speaking travellers, with the vast majority on board being from the United States. They're best known for one feature, which they talk about more than anything else, which actually I agree is a good thing. So let me start with this and other things that I liked before I get on to those that work less well. AVALON argue the best thing about their ships are the cabins, and I agree. Most cabins are panorama suites. These, they claim, are 30% larger than the industry standard and have two standout features. First, there is no balcony, but there are floor-to-ceiling, wall-to-wall windows that open very wide, which means great ability to see the scenery and have fresh air coming in. I absolutely love these. Also, the bed faces those windows, and therefore the view, certainly when lying in or on the bed and going through scenic areas, is fantastic. I found the bathroom was a good size with nice touches like L'Occitane toiletries, and then they have towels in two colors, white and beige, so there's no arguing over whose towel is which. I like the really good soundproofing, and certainly unlike several other river cruise ships I've been on, I couldn't hear people on either side at all. There are only two minor negatives I had with the cabin, and these are pretty minor. First of all, and probably linked more to the fact that it's a sort of a premium rather than a sort of luxury line, I found the bedding and the pillows not great. A fairly flimsy duvet, and the pillows sort of had a very synthetic feeling filling. And if you're a North American traveller, it only had European sockets like most European river cruise boats, but it did have USB ports by the bed. They have two other cabin types, a Royal Suite, which is much bigger with separate seating and bedding areas and definitely a larger bathroom. And then on the lowest deck and 3/4 under water, they have deluxe cabins with windows just above that waterline. The second positive that I do want to talk about, though, is the ship overall. While it's not particularly unique or different to other river cruise ships because they all have to be the same width, height and length to fit in the locks and go under the bridges, I did find this ship pretty good. Although, like all river ships, facilities are of course pretty limited. There was a main lounge, the Panorama Lounge, with the bar, 24-hour coffee machine and great views out on 3 sides and a little seating area in the very front outside. It's used for daily briefings, any entertainment, and importantly, as you will hear later, some dining. There's another small lounge that I really liked at the rear of the ship called the Club Lounge. It has fantastic views on 3 sides, a 24-hour coffee machine, a huge range of teas, then snacks 24 hours a day, including cookies, treat of the day like apple turnover or muffins, bags of fruit and nut mix. They also have sets of games here. There's a large dining room, which I'll talk about in more detail when I talk about the food. Lots to talk about there. There's a lobby with the 24-hour guest services and the cruise director's desk. Now, unlike many river ships, it doesn't have a shop, though they had a pop-up AVALON merchandise store one day on the sailing. There's a very small fitness center with a bike, rowing machine, and some weights, which is unusual across many river cruise ships. They have an elevator between the floors for passengers who have more limited mobility. On the top of the ship is the sky deck running the full length of the ship. It has lots of seating areas, many under cover, which is fantastic when doing scenic sailing days, like when we went through the Rhine Gorge, for example. It has a games area with kind of oversized chess, backgammon, a little putting green, a very small hot tub, and a running and walking track. Unfortunately, unlike some river ships that I've been on, it doesn't have like a plunge pool, something a little bit more on the top deck. I found the decor of the ship rather neutral. It's not that memorable or distinctive, but it's practical and it worked perfectly fine. So next I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the actual onboard experience, the off-ship excursions, and importantly, dining. But let me start with that since that's so important to many people. There are some aspects of dining that have changed since I was last in Avalon, which I really liked. The dining room that I mentioned offers a buffet breakfast, a buffet lunch, and then a 4-course served dinner. One day, instead of lunch in the dining room though, the chef ran a grill up on the skydeck with burgers, German sausages. It's actually a great venue and it's a pity it was not used more often, certainly on my sailing. For dinner, unlike many river cruise lines I've been on, it was open-seated dining, so people didn't all have to be seated at a fixed time, so it offered a little bit more flexibility about the time you ate, which I really liked. But I also liked the layout of the dining room because instead of large tables for 6 or more, like many other lines I've been on, there were also 2 long banks of tables with options to dine alone or as a couple. Admittedly, they're very close to each other, so you do of course end up sitting next to people and chatting, but I liked that you didn't have to necessarily sit at a big table. The dinner menus were pretty solid. There was a good, decent choice, usually with at least one healthy option called AVALON Fresh, a local specialty dish, and a vegetarian one. Overall, I found the food good. It definitely matches the other premium line competition. Maybe not as good as the luxury ones, but certainly matches the premium. But what I really liked is Avalon have embraced more casual dining. On most river cruises, I found very limited options for casual dining. Avalon offered a room service breakfast. Admittedly, it was a pretty small menu, but of course you could have it. They also had a small casual lunch option in the Panorama Lounge and a casual buffet dinner with selected dishes from the dining room menu also in the Panorama Lounge. I really liked this because it meant that I didn't have to go and have what usually was up to a 2-hour served dinner. And so if we were docked in town, I could pop off and do a bit of more exploring. I could relax up on the deck or in my room. I didn't have to go to those long dinners. Another positive was there was a meeting with the executive chef held on an embarkation day to discuss dietary issues or needs. So that was well catered for. When it comes to dining, there were 2 areas I think that possibly could be improved. They have afternoon tea every day at 4 o'clock. It was a bit of a mess as the sandwiches I think probably were prepared a bit too early, so they were a little bit dried, a little bit curled up. But every day had different cakes and treats, which I think were pretty well done. But more significantly, I felt they didn't really embrace and immerse us guests into the regional food and drinks as much as I've had on other lines. An observation that I'm going to come back to in another area too, by the way. They did have, as I mentioned, some regional and local dishes here and there on the menu, but I've had much more immersive, fully regional themed dinners and dining on other lines, and I think that was a little bit of a miss here. Now on that theme, while the included wines at meals were all European, they were not all from the area, with a red, a white and a rosé wine on each menu from Spain, Italy, France and even Romania included. Though I suspect this was probably done to offer variety and quality to wine drinkers. Certainly wine drinkers I spoke to enjoyed the options and the quality, so maybe it's me being overly critical. Wines, beers and soft drinks, by the way, were included with lunch and dinner, and there were more included drinks at the daily happy hour, where I and other guests could order from a very specific happy hour drinks menu, which included some wines, some beers, some cocktails, some non-alcoholic cocktails, some alcoholic drinks, and so on. The rest of the time, drinks were an added charge. Now, as many of you like to explore the food and drinks much more, I put all the menus for all the meals and the full bar menu in a folder, which you can view at tipsfortravelers.com/Avalon. Next is probably one of the big strengths of Avalon, and why I think many past passengers have rated them all so highly. This is the relaxed atmosphere with more flexibility, more active options than many river cruises I've been on, underpinned by good, efficient service. I found Avalon to be less formal than many lines. I think that's because they're trying to attract travelers who are more youthful, they want to be more active, they want to be more casual than the traditional river cruiser. For example, there's no dress code, and if you want to wear shorts and a t-shirt to dinner, then you absolutely can with no issues. No announcements were made through the PA system, so avoiding that feeling I've had on other lines of being sort of on a tightly controlled, very ordered, escorted tour. It felt much more casual. The open-seated dining and more flexible dining that I mentioned, of course, added even more to the casual, less structured feeling I've had on other river cruise lines. The high level of inclusions probably also added to the casual feeling because there was hardly ever a need to sign for or charge anything to my cabin. As well as the drinks and 24-hour coffee stations I mentioned earlier being included, other inclusions were Starlink Wi-Fi, where you could connect as many devices as you wanted, a choice of at least 2 excursions at every stop. There was daily fitness classes run by a dedicated fitness adventure host, and then there was the ability to use onboard e-bikes and regular bikes to self-explore in any of the ports. There was no hard sell, no nickel and diming on board at all. The only added charge items were drinks outside the included times, the minibar items in your room, some additional added charge premium excursions, gratuities were extra, and so were transfers. Another nod to the more youthful and modern approach, instead of a printed daily program, it was only available on the AVALON Go smartphone app and the in-room TV. The app also had all the menus, excursion details, local maps, and all the kind of information you needed. Another positive, and one I saw referred to often in the online reviews, is the crew and the service. It's a healthy crew to passenger ratio with 47 crew looking after the up to 166 passengers. Most of the crew were from Eastern Europe, although I did see there were many more Asian cabin attendants, which is a change from other river cruises I've been on. But linked to the relaxed approach, the crew and service is definitely less formal with a kind of a chatty, friendly format. However, it was still attentive and efficient, but it's definitely kind of a more relaxed approach. Let me talk about the things now that I think were okay or less good, starting with one I thought would be a standout due to AVALON being part of the Globus group, and that is Excursions. Personally, I didn't find the AVALON Excursions standing out versus other river cruise lines that I've been on. And I thought they would leverage much more of the Globus connection because, of course, Globus do tours, all through Europe, all through these places. But talking to some of the guides, they did seem to really basically focus on river cruise lines. And they work across several different cruise lines. I didn't speak to all the guides, but those that I did told me that. There was a choice of excursions in all the stops, which of course was really good to have some choice. AVALON didn't make much of having 3 categories of excursions: active, discovery, and classic. But I didn't see a massive difference between them in reality. The classic tours, of course, were the same I've had on other river cruise lines, which are walking tours of nearby historic towns. You get some history, you look at historically significant buildings or regions, you visit the town square, and you go to the cathedral. So pretty standard stuff. The discovery tours promise to go to more of the beaten areas or explore a specific topic. So in Cologne, it explored Jewish heritage. In another, it explored the Black Forest and the cuckoo clock making. Now, the active tours were run by the adventure host and included, for example, a hike to the Niederwald monument high above Rüdesheim, cycling tours of Cologne and Strasbourg, and so on. Although they stressed that the host was not a guide, and so while they would lead the hike or cycle, you wouldn't get an explanation of the sites and places in detail. So I think that was disappointing. The tours generally were like those I've been on other river cruise lines, so I was a little bit disappointed there was nothing really unique and different. However, of course, the challenge is where these ships stop. They're very limited on what is there, and all the lines, I think, kind of have to do the same things because that's basically what's in these little towns. Probably, though, the main thing I was kind of disappointed in was the lack of enrichment, immersion, and entertainment from the areas that we passed through. So the daily briefing was probably weaker versus other lines I've been on because it just covered the daily program for the next day. On other lines, we were given talks about the river, the area, the history, the culture, to give kind of more depth to what we were doing. By the end of those river cruises, I felt that I understood the river, the places we were going through. That didn't really happen on AVALON. There was no kind of overarching story or understanding about the region or the Rhine itself done on board. Now, while most river cruises don't have much evening entertainment, this was particularly low-key, I felt, on my cruise. Anyway, in the evenings there were a couple of game nights. A local band played in Cologne when we were there, but it was a dance band rather than anything kind of cultural. A string trio played in Rüdesheim. But again, there was no real deep link to the culture or heritage of the region. Other lines that I've been on brought on, say, traditional dancers, traditional musicians, experts to talk, and so on, and we didn't have that. Bearing these pros and cons in mind, did I feel that high 4.7 rating is valid? Well, first off, bear in mind, this is a costly trip, as all river cruises are. It's the level of going on a luxury ocean cruise line per night. So a typical AVALON 7-night cruise like the Rhine cruise I did costs per cabin for 2 people the following: about $1,000 a night for a deluxe cabin under the waterline, about $1,600 a night for panorama suites, and about $2,100 a night for the Royal Suite. So very costly. I actually booked on a no solo supplement promotion, and so I paid $800 a night for my panorama suite. So if you are river cruising, you must judge value for money, knowing it is more costly than most ocean cruise lines, and compare it to other river cruise lines, not ocean. With that in mind, I can see why AVALON got such good ratings, as the combination of service, competitive food, acceptable excursions, pleasant ships, comfortable cabins, delivered with a more relaxed and flexible experience, does set it aside from many river cruise line options. It's also why I saw younger, or certainly more youthful guests, including several families with teen and college university aged kids on board. Does it have elevated food? Does it have great entertainment and good enrichment? Is it very luxurious? No, it's not, but it's a great premium line that definitely works for a more laid back, more independent-minded traveler who does want to try river cruising. But to find out what the 12 river cruises I've done to date have taught me that anyone going on river cruising needs to know, join me over in this video where I start with the biggest mistake almost everyone makes. See you over there.